Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to any newcomers. As part of ABC April 2026 with Margaret on Seven Plaza and Tony on Crafty by Tony, I decided I would do Y for yarn because I have done quite a lot of yarn paintings, and there's a couple of videos in my playlist for yarn painting. And recently I decided, I've never made a journal cover with yarn painting. So, without giving you too much of a sneak preview, this is what I create in this video, and part of it I filmed with our local art group, and they were doing yarn painting at the same time I was. So, I'm going to take you through the whole process. And I hope you get some inspiring ideas. And maybe you know someone who does knitting or crocheting with blanket weight yarn. I'll let you know that. And if they would save their scraps for you, or maybe you knit or crochet and you have some blanket weight yarn, that's the easiest yarn for yarn painting. So I'm making this journal today. Hope you'll join me. I hope you're inspired. So let's get going. So how I started it was I cut really heavy chipboard. I mean, this stuff's really, really thick. It's just almost like, yeah, it's very wood-like, actually. It's so thick. And yeah, cut it to the size I wanted. It came off of a notepad, an old notepad that was 9 by 12. Either that or it was a sketch pad. I don't remember because I just had it in my cardboard stash. So yeah, so it was, I just cut it down so that it would be 5.5 by 9. And I had this little piece remaining, which is not, yeah, it's almost an inch. So then, because I knew that I wanted to have a front cover and a back cover, and I wanted to make sure, now, because I decided I was going to work in yarn, I wanted to connect the sides beforehand so that I can stretch the yarn across, because that's going to be part of the support and the hinge. So I created a little gap on this measuring board and just put a lot of masking tape on it. Now I'm going to be putting some fabric on this side to help reinforce this spine, and I'm thinking about doing it on this side. So this was the next stage, was to create my drawing. This is how my yarn is going to look. I'm going to be doing this in front of a group of people. So that's why I am overdubbing, because I'm going to take my camera and my tripod with me so that I can show people how I'm doing this in this other environment. So you'll see some variation in the light, but you can see that I have some pencil lines. I used a stencil. I had this stencil, and I just used this to kind of give me a guide for these letters. These are 1-inch tall letters. I didn't want to use this exactly because the yarn won't allow me to put these serifs and any little fancy bits on there. So I just drew over my stenciled line from the stencil into something very blocky. Now, when I do the yarn, I can possibly be a little bit creative with the yarn. I'm going to see how that goes. And so, something on the back cover would be nice. And that's why I created this flower design. It's very, very simple. The whole thing is going to be yarn, but I also need yarn that's going to span this distance here. It's going to go across the spine and into the covers, the front and back. So it's like I'll have a piece of yarn that goes from here all the way until it reaches this vine design. And that will help create structure from here across, all the way across on the top and bottom and wherever I possibly can. So there'll be yarn going across the entire spine. Some places it'll be a little shorter, and some places it'll be really long. So that will make it strong. That is my goal. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a band of cloth. And I'm going to be covering that cloth with, I'm going to be covering the inside with some kind of paper, some kind of nice paper. And I'm not worried about these edges at this point. I'm just winging it, and I decided I wanted to make a yarn art journal cover. That's what I'm doing. And this is how I am starting. So I hope that makes sense. I cut the cardboard, and it needs to be very thick cardboard. This is super, super sturdy chipboard. It's the most thick and sturdy. It took quite a lot of cutting to get through it all. I'm ready to go. I'm going to put the fabric on now. I've decided to go with something very neutral. I know that the yarns that I'll be using, which are blanket weight yarns, they're not really bright colors. I know because I've got a yellow flower with green leaves, and I'm going to carry that through. I'm just going to go with a scrap that I have, and it's going to be this brown and beige. So that's nice and neutral. It'll go with whatever I put on it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, I'm going to do this so that I can be precise. This scrap is just under 3 inches. So I'm going to find the center. So it's about, the center's right about there. So if I find the center, I can put in 3 inches across. That way I can be precise with my glue. And all the rest of this will get covered. Okay. And I'm using the strongest glue I have. Let's make sure. Oh, yes, perfect. And since it dries quickly, I think I'll start with the center and work my way out. I actually don't care if it seeps through because it's just not going to show on that fabric. So I'm just smearing it around as best I can here. This is definitely an experiment. Never done anything like this before. So this will be fun. Fun to see if it works. Well, I think that's a very strong bond. Okay. And I'm going to wrap that around. Let's see how far. Ooh, I could wrap that around quite a bit. Golly, I think that's a good idea. Maybe I'll even, I've got just enough this left. Well, let's start here and see what happens. Get it well into the crease. Don't want to lose that flexibility. Could have left myself a little more room there. I wasn't thinking about that. It's all right. I'm gonna make it work. All right, well, I have a little piece left. It's all going to get hidden, so I can use something else to fill the gap. Because it's not going to show. I don't want it that wide through there, though. That's fine. That's fine. I think I'll find something else for the gap. I think this is a better idea. It's going to make it nice and strong underneath the yarn. We want it to be nice and strong under the yarn. It's all going to get hidden. I've still got a couple of bits and pieces of this. I'm going to use this last little bit here. I'll just cut 2 of them. There we go. This is going to work out just fine. Okay, clean up my messy oozy bottle. It just keeps oozing and oozing and oozing. I'm running out in this, so I like to keep it sitting sideways, but yes, it does tend to want to ooze out. All right, so don't let it get stuck there. Okay, I'm really happy with that. That's going to be completely covered by the yarn going back and forth, and we now have a super sturdy spine. It's very flexible, and I wanted that. I wanted that flexibility. And I had just enough of that scrap. I've still got a little scrap left of it, and that's fine. It'll come in handy for a collage or something. So, all right. Well, this is where I am in this project for the moment. And tomorrow, I'm going to be doing yarn painting on the cover. So it's going to be interesting to see how that comes out. And now we get to the overdubbed part of this video. And what I'm doing here is, well, I'm getting started with the yarn. This is blanket weight yarn. So it's really a pleasure to work with rather than worsted weight yarn. It's thicker, so it's much easier to handle. And this is the next day because I belong to this absolutely wonderful art group, and we do different kinds of art every Monday. And it's a lot of fun. Different people will lead the group in showing what they do. We've done watercolor, different kinds. We've done, oh goodness, it's hard to kind of bring it all up, but we do lots of different kinds of crafts and art. And so this time I just said, well, how about yarn painting? So I was the lead. I had to help everybody get set up and make sure everything was good. And so, yeah, what you need for yarn painting is, I've mostly used canvas boards because they're very flat and sturdy, and they stay flat and sturdy. And so it's a little bit fiddly when you're doing these small bits like I'm doing with the letters. And so what you want to keep in mind for yarn painting is simplicity. You don't want anything that's really too complicated, because you can see, you can't put in a huge amount of detailed bits. So I really recommend you try it. It's great fun, and it's great fun to do it with a group. I mean, we were talking about all kinds of things and laughing, and so oh yeah, we've done candle decorating, we've done collage, we've done, I'm so busy thinking about yarn painting, I can't remember all the good things that we've done in this art group. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. So I'm not going to show you every little bit of this. I'm going to fast forward on some of it. But the Elmer's white glue works great. It works really great. And it's slow drying, so it gives you time to poke the yarn around. And what I'm using there is a barbecue skewer, just one of those bamboo barbecue skewers. And you really need that. You need something that you can poke the yarn, because your fingers can't always get into the little nooks and crannies. And what you'll see later is that having something small like that to poke into the small areas, that is so handy. Okay, so everybody else was doing their own thing, and I will. I'll share some of those photos that we ended the day with works in progress, and next week we're going to be finishing things. But I'm going to finish this particular project this week, so that I can get this video up for, well, ABC April 2026, and I'm going to do this for Y for yarn. And so that's when you're seeing it. Well, maybe you're seeing it. Maybe you're seeing it sometime after that. So yeah, I like to cut pieces before I stick them down. And I like to do the details. So if I'm doing an animal, I want to do the eyes first. And sometimes you want to do the outline of things first. And then fill in with your other yarns. And you'll see that happen. Okay, so I did this drawing, which you saw just a minute ago. That's right. So, yeah. And okay, so let me speed this up a little bit. Okay, now that I've got the letters done, you can really see how cool it is that you could just draw with the glue. You just draw it and add the yarn, and it's great because you can get this wonderful fluid movement. And that's the other thing about having a pokey tool, is that you can kind of get it started, and then as the glue dries, you can be manipulating it. And once you get all the filler in, you don't even see those joins. They just utterly disappear because it's a fluffy kind of yarn. So it just sort of melds into the piece before it. It really works great. So now I've finished the first part of that vine, and going on to the flower. I like to do all of these kinds of parts first. Now I'm just kind of double checking things. I'm describing that I've got the other people in the room and they want to know, oh, how is it looking? What are you doing? All of that stuff. So we have such a good time together. Now in this case, I'm making some details, but I find out that, yeah, I'm not going to need to do that precise gluing with that part. So then first thing I'm doing is I'm figuring out, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the petals. Now once I have that figured out, the best thing is to just cut a whole bunch of petals. Saves a lot of time. Makes it a whole lot easier. So that's really it. You just make a little loop, and that point on the stick is great because it can really manipulate your yarn. And that's what I'm finding out, is I'm going to need more petals than what I originally drew. So I'm just filling it in all the way, and I'm going to let the yarn tell me how many petals I need. So that's one of the things. So now that the flower's done, I'm going to give it a stem. And you see I have short pieces. A lot of the yarn that I have is from other projects, and these are little offcuts. So it doesn't matter because you can always join them. And then what I'm considering there is I don't want the stem to go all the way down to the bottom of the board. And you'll see why a little bit later. Now the other thing I'm doing here is I cut that off at the tip rather than turning the corner because I wanted the leaf to be pointy. And you kind of need to have the yarn just end in order to get that nice pointiness. Then once I have outlines done, I go ahead and fill the shape. And then it's really, really easy, especially since the glue is slow drying. What's really nice about the slower drying glue is that I have time. You have time with the yarn because you might need to push the outline out just a little bit, just so that you can squeeze in the fillers, and then everything can be manipulated. You can push it in and push it out. So now that the flower and the leaves, well, it's not quite done, which you will see. You could see I was just winging it. I was totally winging it. I didn't know what colors I was going to use. I couldn't remember what yarn was in the stash at our meeting place, which is at a library. We've got a library that has a closet for their kids events, and they have other things that are happening. And this art group is just one of their events. It's just a fabulous place. So we were laughing and talking about all kinds of different things and having a good time. We get together from 1 to 3. And you can see I'm just using small pieces of yarn, and then it's all very useful. And that little stick, it's just a simple, silly little thing, and it's just the best tool. It just makes it so easy to get the yarn where I want it to go. But I was totally ad-libbing. Yeah, I didn't, I was just making decisions on the fly. And that's sort of the beauty of this whole thing. I think it's going to make a fun journal cover. We were, going around looking at each other's and getting some ideas, making sure everybody was good, because there were 2 people in this one who had never done yarn painting before. So this was a whole new experience for them. Okay, that's about as far as I wanted to go at this point. I wanted to get started on the background for this video so that you could really see what was going on with that. So this is a very pale kind of a lavender color. I've got several colors of lavender, and that was a color. There were a bunch of colors. I just kind of have to use what colors were in the stash. So that was part of the ad lib part. So now for some of these really little tight places. This can be quite finicky, but it's easy enough. So you get these little short pieces, and they'll fit in those little bitty short places. And again, there's the beauty of that little pokey tool is you can just really work it into those little gaps. And you want to work it into those little gaps for this case because I want the letters to stand out. This is background stuff. I really want it to sit down tight. So now, yeah, I remember what happened here is that I was thinking that I was going to use this light color for the entire background. And I went, whoops, wait a minute. I go, nope. Because what's going to happen is that light color, the flower, is just going to disappear. It needs contrast. So shift gears. It's time to outline the flower. Easily solved, right? I've still got some of that purple. So it's time to work the purple in. So that's what happened here is I needed to shift gears and go, okay, the flower needs an outline in order for it to work. So I hope you can really see how easy and fun it is to work with this yarn. And I sped it up a little bit more. Save some time. Now, one of the things I realized is that when this book turns, when I close it, I need to have enough yarn that goes into the little dents in that spine so that when I fold it closed, it does, it's gotta give. It's gotta give. So I'm poking it in. and I do make some adjustments later. Okay, so I speeded it up more because you kind of see how the whole thing is working now. And I'm pressing down into the spine. And yeah, you just get into these little tiny spaces and comes together really nicely. Another thing I like to do is define the border with some kind of yarn. And you can see I'm starting to change the color, and I've got a good reason for that. And again, going to make sure that I have enough yarn to go around the spine so the spine will close nicely. It's really good to kind of finish a section. I wanted to finish this upper section because I realized I was running out of that off-white kind of lavender color. So I knew I was going to have to change colors after I had finished that top half. Hey, I'm back in the studio. We got to the end of that time at uh, at our little art group. So I'm going to finish this. I wanted to just really check in here, and so I had almost run out of this really pale color. So I went ahead and finished it from side to side. I've still got a couple of little bitty pieces left, so it worked out perfect because then I had this slightly darker color. And so I was just creating this just a little bit of a change in tone. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in the rest of this area with this pale color. And yeah, and then we're gonna check and make sure that everything is glued down. And by the way, I realized, I've used this so many times for yarn painting that I'm used to it. But another really good glue to use would be the Aleene's Fabric Fusion or even the Fabric Tack because they don't dry super fast. The thing is that you want to keep your line of glue small. You don't want to have it be a really too juicy because what's nice is that this is soft. The glue is underneath the yarn. You don't want it oozing up too much because it gets kind of hard and it's not pleasant to the touch. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in the rest of this with this second color. And then we're going to look at the finished part of it. Make final decisions. I want to make sure there's nothing sticking up because I can always, it's just like there's some little loose bits, but that's not necessarily bad because again, I want to make sure that it will close. There needs to be that extra yarn going around the curve. But okay, yeah, see like this one, because I bent it over when I was at the art group, I'm going to have to put a little glue under that and get that down. So these are just those little bits and pieces to be looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and get this finished, make sure everything is anchored down. I wanted you to see how you can just fill a whole area with glue because the glue dries so slowly, and then you can just go ahead and fill it up. And that works really well, especially because you want to get those yarns squished in. You want to use the tool and get a nice fill. You really want to fill it up. All right, I finished all of the yarn. I'm very pleased with the fact that I've got so much yarn that's crossing the spine all the way. That just gives that spine, even though it's a good thing I put the cloth underneath, but it's nice to have this continuity, this complete flow going all the way around. And I need to let this dry overnight. I need to dry it first before I can discover where there might be some lifting, like these little yarns were lifting. And if there's any big gaps for some reason, I've still got some yarn that I can fill in any big gaps. But this is just kind of a fun, playful kind of a cover. It doesn't have to be, it's just a fun thing, right? So anyway, I'm going to let this dry overnight, and then we'll come back and see what else the next thing is to do. It's the next morning, And I came back to it being, well, quite warped. I have a solution, a couple of solutions for this. So yes, it's very warped. I did not put it under any heavy weights, and that might have been a good idea. I didn't want to squish out any of the glue from under the yarn. I was just thinking, no, just let it dry naturally. So this is what I have right now. Everything's dry, everything is anchored down, but I have a pretty serious warp situation, and this was the thickest cardboard I could find. So, but there's a couple of different things that we can do. Okay, so the first thing what I wanted to do was, since I wound up with a purple background, which when I went to the art gathering, I didn't know what color the background was going to be, and I went with this neutral brown fabric. But then I went, well, I've got all this purple, and so I want the inside to be kind of a purple paper, but I really didn't so much want it next to the brown. And I thought, well, just ink it, you know. So I went around and inked all the edges, so a little bit of the ink got on the edge of the yarn, and that's just fine. This is kind of a plummy purple, and this is a plum purple. This is Memories. It is a permanent dye ink, so I don't have to worry about anything happening with bleed out or anything like that, because this is going to get wet again. So I just went ahead and used the dauber to purple up that brown fabric, because this is going to show it when I stitch in the signatures. I also cut the paper oversized. I decided I'd rather trim it afterward than try to align it perfectly beforehand. I'd rather align it to the inside the hinge and just leave this teeny little bit of margin all the way around that I can then adjust correctly. Okay, so that's the plan. Now, the thing is, I might normally use the acetone-based glue to apply the paper, but instead I'm going to use one of the liquid glues. I think I'll use the tacky glue, because I can spread it, and I have a card I use for spreading. It's getting quite gluey. So I have a card that I'm going to spread it, and by getting a wet glue on here again and putting the paper on it, I will put some kind of a non-stick on this side, and I'll put it under some really heavy books. I have a stack of books just for that purpose. And then I'm going to wait a day. I'm not going to touch this for a day. I'm going to let it just dry completely under that weight and let it flatten out. Meanwhile, I can be working on the signatures, right? After all, it's going to take some doing before I'm ready to sew anything in. I know what my space is here. My plan is for 2 signatures. So let me get my glue, and yeah, hopefully that will do the trick, because this is going to get that cardboard wet again. Because the other thing that I could do if I wanted to get it flat first is I could use my water bottle and kind of mist it and get it wet, then put some kind of a non-stick on it, and then put it under weights, and then proceed with putting some paper on the inside. But I think with the wet glue, I think that will do the trick, because this is water-based. So water in any form is going to do the trick of softening this cardboard so that it can be flattened again. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, I wanted to make sure that it was shiny everywhere. I don't want any dull spots that don't have glue on them. So really, I'm just judging this. I think I'm going to add a little more glue when it's all dry. But right now, the main thing is to get it lined up. Yeah, that's really crooked. Yowza. I don't want it too crooked. I better turn it over. Okay, straight enough. I can use the flip side. And sometimes there's just nothing like using your own fingers, because you can feel where it's not stuck down. You can feel it. And the paper is getting a little bit wrinkled itself, and that's fine. I mean, that's why I chose this purple paper. It was in my stash, and it has kind of a wrinkly look to it, and wet glues will do that. But that's good, because that's what I wanted to happen with the cardboard. So now that this is glued down, you can see that the paper itself is kind of wrinkly, and that's fine. It will shrink back some as it dries as well. So it's time to put this under some weight and move on with the signatures. It turned out to be super easy to finish not only the cover, but this journal itself. So I went ahead and did it. It was very, very simple. So you can see there's something added here. So it flattened out beautifully. And the offcuts from the scrapbook paper I turned into just really simple pockets. They just have the little bit of gusset on the side. And that can be for whatever. Haven't decided yet. All the edges are inked. It was an easy matter to trim all the edges. So it was just really no big deal to finish it. It flattened well. It's not absolutely perfect, but that's okay. And what you see here is, of course, elastic. And I was thinking, because it's create art, I was thinking, and also this is just it's now so super strong. It's got that heavy duty chipboard cardboard in it. It's got the heavier kind of scrapbook paper on it, and it has a ton of glue and a full layer of yarn, so it's very soft to the touch, which is fun and very different. So I decided to go a different direction with this. I have this really pretty purple paper that's like a giant card, and I decided, because it's a create art, I would put in this elastic binding so it could be removable art papers. So this is some mixed media paper, which of course you can take out one page, work on it, all sides if desired, and then the other signature is sketch paper. And it is the beautiful cardstock paper, just to keep it protected, and everything comes out, and these can be moved around a little bit if you want. It's move the elastic around a little if needed, because sometimes when you're taking pages in and out, it'll move a little. This could be information about what's inside. So this is the sketch paper, this is mixed media paper. So I finished it. So that didn't take long at all. Once I made the decision that elastic binding just wrapped around this heavy duty spine, it's going to be fine. And it's for creating art, and lots of paper can be added. These could be removed and a whole different kind of art could be added. This could become a cover for a glue book, a scrappy journal, whatever. It could be very purple. It could be all kinds of things. And I will leave that to the creative muse for whoever would like this cover and the pages that are in it. I'm going to put it on my Etsy shop. If no one ever wants it, well, someday I might use it. Right now I'm not doing this kind of journal thing, but hey, who knows what the future holds for me, or anyone else for that matter. For now, though, I am very pleased with how this came out. This whole challenge was about, I've done all kinds of yarn art, but I'd never made a yarn journal cover. And the main thing that I needed to realize in this process was I needed to use an extra heavy duty cardboard. It needs to be under weights to keep it flat. And when laying the yarn on, it has to be laid on so that it can do this wrap. So it can wrap beautifully around the spine. And now, I mean, you can't even tell. It's there. It's so flexible. But it wasn't flexible until I made sure that there was enough to do this full wraparound. So I hope that makes sense. And if you know somebody who uses this kind of blanket weight yarn for knitting or crocheting, and you'd like to try something like this, get them to save their scraps for you. This was made out of scraps. My sister-in-law does all the knitting, and she's been saving all these scraps for me. And I've shared it with our local art group, and we've had a lot of fun. So I think for just a little last-minute addition to this video, I'll do a really quick slideshow if you want to see some of the yarn art that some of the other people have made in our little art group. And mine, I'll have a couple of mine mixed in there, but mainly it's just yarn can be a lot of fun. This is blanket weight yarn, so it's not worsted or sport weight. Any of the thinner yarns are not very satisfying because they're so fussy, but this kind of yarn is great fun to work with. And I do have a couple of videos if you look in the playlist for yarn painting. So anyway, I hope that this was inspiring and you got a few ideas. And I really appreciate you being here. So I hope you'll join me next time. Oh, and by the way, this was Yarn for Y for ABC April 2026. And thank you to Margaret on Seven Plaza and Tony on Crafty by Tony for doing this event. And I wish I could have done more this year, but you know, life sometimes takes us in other directions. So thank you. Bye bye for now.